Calling all millennial moms everywhere. Do you feel like God is pulling and tugging on you to make some major changes in your life? For me, it was to leave my job, focus on my family and business, and, wait for it, homeschool my children. This call came with fear, imposter syndrome, the need to have control, and a whole lot of gray hair. But with the uncertainty came lessons and experiences that only God Himself could teach me. You see, the first part of Colossians 3:16 says, "Let the message of Christ dwell among you richly as you teach and admonish one another with all wisdom." So with that, I welcome you to God is Calling You to Homeschool Now What? The podcast. A place where we will grow, learn, find support, and run our homes, businesses, and homeschool the way that God intended for us to do. Are you ready? Buckle up. Now let's get into this week's episode. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. I am so excited because this week begins the inside scoop into our Destined for Greatness community's Proverbs 31 deep dive. These convos were life-changing in so many ways that they needed to be released for them to bless you too. During the month of March, the moms and I met at 7 a.m. every day for 21 days to dissect the verses and receive what God was trying to show us for our own lives. I am so excited to take you all on this incredible journey. Welcome to the Proverbs 31 Deep Dive, verse 10. Let's listen in. It is day one. I am excited to finally be diving deep into the Proverbs 31 woman. It has been very enlightening for me, so I cannot wait to get into it with you guys and to just hear what God is also giving you all. So I'm going to just go right in. Today we're going to talk about Proverbs 31 and verse 10. And most of the time when I'm reading a verse, it's going to be from the NIV version. But in the notes that you guys are going to get right after this, I do put different versions just because I know that everyone likes to refer to different verses for different things. And as we get deeper into the chapter, sometimes I needed the OG King James version also to kind of understand what they were talking about. But for today, we're going to do Proverbs 31 and 10 from the NIV version. And it says, "A wife of noble character, who can find? She is worth far more than rubies." And I feel like they started out the gate with like these really high expectations. Like, she is a phenomenal woman. So to be honest, it felt a little intimidating at first, which I think we all can relate to. Like, the Proverbs 31 woman is just this amazing, perfect lady that like everybody should aspire to be. But I really feel like in this deep dive that we're going to do, God is just going to point out different things about her that we can look to and try to implement in our own lives and relate it to the way that the world is today, and not try to be like her exactly. But just seeing that what God was able to do through her is possible for Him to do through us too. So again, Proverbs 31 and 10, "A wife of noble character, who can find? She is worth far more than rubies." The first thing that stood out to me about this verse was she's a wife. Like, she's not just a girlfriend, a side piece, a friend, whatever. She owns the title wife. So she automatically has certain qualities. Hopefully she has responsibilities, and she already has a certain amount of respect too, because she is not just anybody, she is a wife. And then next, she's of noble character. So I know what noble means, but in this deep dive, of course, I had to look up what it means to be noble. And in my Bible dictionary, it defines noble as having high and moral qualities. So again, she is just this awesome person. She is moral. She is respected. She is rare, because right after that it says, "Who can find?" And I also realized being a noble woman is also mentioned in other verses in the Bible as well. So when I started digging even deeper, Ruth was brought up. Ruth 3:11 says, "And now, my daughter, don't be afraid. I will do for you all that you ask. All of the people in my town know you are a woman of noble character." So we're going to look into Ruth a little bit later once we finish all of the verses, but she's another example of a noble woman in the Bible. So a wife of noble character, who can find, which means she's rare. She's not something that, or someone that is easily accessible. She's a blessing to anybody that comes across her. Like, she is that girl, basically. But some other verses that I pulled out that talked about having noble character is Proverbs 12:4, which says, a wife of noble character is her husband's crown, but a disgraceful wife is like decay in his bones. Now, when I read that, I was like, dang. One thing Proverbs is going to do is they're going to come for your neck. And any woman that is not being respectful and faithful and honoring her husband and her family, Proverbs is going to basically compare her to the destruction of her family. And that's also why I refer to us being the foundation of our home and of our homeschool now, because clearly if mom is not okay, and if the wife is not okay, and if she's not living up to the standards that God has for us, she's going to literally destroy her family. Let's see. Repeat that last verse, please. It was Proverbs 12:4. A wife of noble character is her husband's crown, but a disgraceful wife is like decay in his bones. I believe I also put that in the notes too that you'll get right after this. So yeah, like decay in his bones. So thankfully, this Proverbs 31 woman is not like the decay in her husband's bones. She is noble. She, again, has high and moral qualities. The next part of the verse says she is worth far more than rubies. So that made me think, like, okay, how much are rubies actually worth? And I didn't yet do like a deep dive into how much they're worth, but I know that they're expensive, and they are sometimes more expensive than diamonds. And in our world, you know, every girl wants diamonds, but God is comparing this Proverbs 31 woman even higher than the typical diamond or diamond ring, diamond necklace, whatever. She is worth far more than rubies, which is like, wow. Another verse that I pulled out of this was Proverbs 18:22. Again, Proverbs 18:22 says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing and receives favor from the Lord. So again, that goes back to her being the foundation. Like, her family, her husband is going to receive favor from her just being in their life. Really, really set the tone for me in reading all the rest of the verses, because we have a responsibility beyond like cooking and cleaning and making sure that everybody has clothes to wear and things like that. We have a spiritual, physical, mental responsibility to uphold within our family, and it's really, really important. Another verse that I pulled out was Proverbs 19:14 says, houses and wealth are inherited from parents, but a prudent wife is from the Lord. Again, Proverbs 19:14 says, houses and wealth are inherited from parents, but a prudent wife is from the Lord. Now, if you're like me, you're like, what in the world does prudent mean? Prudent means having sound judgment or discretion. She's very careful. She is very watchful. She does not just make rash decisions or emotional decisions. She is a prudent wife, and a prudent wife is from the Lord. You cannot buy a prudent wife. You cannot buy a noble wife. You can only buy houses and wealth and material things that even in the Bible says that you can get from your parents, but only God can give you a woman like this.
Did you know that mom is the foundation of her home or homeschool? What exactly does that mean? It means that you, mom, has the power to love, support, and build a strong foundation for her family. The amazing thing about this realization is that you do not have to do any of this alone. With the help of God and a supportive community of moms, you will be able to break generational stumbling blocks, create productive routines, and learn how to walk fully in everything that God is calling you to be. This is exactly what you get out of being a member of the Destined for Greatness membership. We are always accepting new members, and each day feels like we are taking one more step towards being a stronger foundation. Click the link in the show notes for more details and to join us today.
Woo! Like I said, they started off strong with verse 10, okay? So it got me thinking a little bit, like, why is this virtuous woman so hard to find? And, if you read the King James Version, it actually says, who can find a virtuous woman, for her price is far above rubies. So they took it a step further, in my opinion. They went from noble character to virtuous. And a virtuous woman, virtuous means ethical, selfless, dedicated to her family. To me, that's even higher than noble. Like, she is really making sure that she is everything that her family needs her to be. She holds herself to a high standard, and her family holds her to a high standard. Let's see what else. Another thing that I realized in all of the verses in the commentary that I was reading in the Bible about this verse, she uses a lot of wisdom. So I looked even further into the verses that talked about how this wisdom is helping her to be that virtuous or noble woman. And Proverbs 8:11 says, for wisdom is more precious than rubies, and nothing you desire can compare to her. Not the houses, not the cars, not the material things. Nothing you desire can compare with her. Proverbs 19:13, a foolish child is a father's ruin, and a quarrelsome wife is like the constant dripping of a leaky roof. Remember, I said Proverbs comes for the woman who is just out here causing a bunch of chaos, responding emotionally, downplaying her husband and her children. She is like the constant dripping of a leaky roof. Y'all know how annoying a leaky roof is? Or any constant noise that you hear all the time. Nagging, quarrelsome, all of that are attributes that are the opposite of the Proverbs 31 woman. Ephesians 5:22 says, wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you do the Lord. So nothing that she does in this verse, or no way that she is in any of the verses that we're going to read, does she do them without the Lord. She has to submit to her husband the same way that she submits to God, in the same way that she gets her direction and her wisdom and her knowledge from God. And then back to wisdom, Proverbs 3:18, she is a tree of life to those who take hold of her. She being wisdom, those who hold her fast will be blessed. So I feel like they not only started off the verses that talk about the Proverbs 31 woman with high expectations, they're telling us that she's not doing any of this on her own. She's going to God, she's using wisdom, and that is how she is handling all of the things that we're going to read about in the next couple of verses. So some of the things that I started to think about and that you'll see in the notes for our discussion for today is, how does the enemy or society keep us from striving from how does the enemy or society keep us from striving for excellence? And what makes this woman so valuable? And I think we touched on that a little bit. She is a wife. She has high character. She's respected. She's respectful. She is noble. She is virtuous. She is ethical. She's selfless. She's dedicated to her husband and to her children. All of these things, and she is dedicated to God first and foremost. All of these things is what makes her worth far more than rubies and rare. In both translations that I read, in the NIV version, it says a wife of noble character who can find, meaning that she's not a typical person. And then even in the KJV version, it talks about who can find a virtuous woman. Now, it got me thinking also a little bit like, well, if she's so rare, why is she in the Bible? But what part of the Bible that we are supposed to strive towards is actually common in today's world? Not much of it. We are in a society that is just doing whatever they want, and everything is not always biblical. So before I could really even process that and feel like she was impossible to try to uh, dig deeper into and to ask God to show me what He wants me to work on, He didn't even let me get too far into being like, you know what, I'm not even going to try to be like her. Because I'm not trying to be like her, I'm trying to be like Christ. And whatever it is that Christ or God needs to show me about me and the way that my husband needs me and my kids need me, that is what the focus is on, not being like the Proverbs 31 woman completely. There are a lot of attributes from her that we can look towards and see how we are going to be better. But at the end of the day, I think they start this verse by basically saying she is this woman because she is relying on God and her wisdom that God is teaching her. And that is how she's able to do all of the things that we are going to talk about in the coming verses. So yeah, that's really all I have for right now. Like, these morning sessions are not going to be too long. I'm just sharing what God has been putting on my heart about these verses each morning, and then sending out a recap of what we talked about, the recording for anybody that missed it, and then a discussion question for us to dig even deeper and talk about together. Because there, like I said, there are a lot of things that society says, and then there's things that I've learned that the scripture says, and they're not always matching up. So we're going to talk about a lot of those in these coming verses. If you have any questions, go ahead and put it in the chat. Let me know. And if not, you will be getting all of the notes in a few minutes. And don't forget to respond to the discussion question whenever you get a chance, because it's going to add to the conversation for all of us. Thank you for joining, and I will catch you all later. Bye. Have an amazing day.
Hey girl, hey. One thing I noticed while studying the Proverbs 31 woman is that she didn't do it all alone. Sis had help. And guess what? You do too. If you're a homeschooling family in Maryland and you're craving real connection, encouragement, and a safe space for you all to grow, you are more than welcome in our local homeschool group. This isn't just a co-op or a once-in-a-while meetup. I'm building a community where your kids can explore, learn, and make memories, and where you, as mom, can be poured into. We're talking field trips, themed days, faith-based encouragement, and conversations that go beyond curriculum and more into your calling. Because when mom is supported, the whole home shifts. So, if your heart is nudging you right now, check out the show notes. We've got a link to our email list and our Facebook group. I can't wait to see you inside. Hey y'all, so listen, I told y'all that this Proverbs 31 deep dive was going to be good. And this is just the first verse. Like, I was blown away every single day at the revelations that God was sharing with us. But real quick before we leave, I just want to recap a couple of the things that we talked about in verse 10. The first one being that the noble woman is rare. She's not supposed to be like everybody else. And we are in a society where everybody is just copying off of everybody. The way we do our hair, our makeup, our nails, the way we dress, the trends, what we do on social media, our business. Like, literally, it feels like we are in a copy and paste society. And this verse showed me even more that God has created us to do some things together, but He's also created us to be very unique. And a woman that is after God's own heart, and a woman that is focused on what God is calling her to do with her husband, with her children, with her business, with her job, whatever that may be, when she is focused on God, she is automatically going to be set apart. She's automatically not going to be like anybody else. That makes her rare. That makes her valuable. That makes her worthy. Okay? We also talked about mom being the foundation of her home. When I say that, it's not to put all of the pressure onto mom. But even in this verse, we see that mom holds a lot of weight in her family. Think about, your upbringing or your family dynamic. Mom carries a lot of the weight. Mom is the go-to person. Mom is typically the one that is forcing everybody to be in church. Or she's the one playing the gospel music on Saturdays while you're cleaning up. Or she is the one that is like the go-to parent for school events or for homeschooling. Or typically it's a stay-at-home mom, right? Typically, not saying that this is always the case. But when mom again is focused on what she's supposed to be focused on, then it lays out the foundation for the rest of her family. It aids in the routines and whatever it takes for her family to be run smoothly. It all starts with mom. That is extremely important too. But right now, we're talking about mom, and mom is absolutely the foundation of her home. So it is really important for us to understand our value and our impact on our family. Our choices make a major impact on our families. We have the physical, spiritual, mental responsibility to keep our family afloat. If these verses don't teach us anything else, and we'll see more in the coming verses, we see that all of what this Proverbs 31 woman does impacts her family. And it's a good thing. It is a good thing, and it is an honor to know that God is trusting us to like have this responsibility alongside our husbands, because we know that they have a responsibility for our families as well. But it's not just them, it's us too. We have to work together to build that family dynamic that will measure up to what God is calling us to. We talked about a prudent wife. She has sound judgment. She uses wisdom. She uses discernment. She's not just, always acting on emotions. She's not blurting things out all the time. She's very wise. Very, very wise. And she can only get that wisdom from God and through the lessons that she's learning in life. This is just the first verse, guys. All 21 verses that talk about the Proverbs 31 woman has been impactful, to say the least. And we will continue next week with verse 11, and we will continue to see how she is pouring into her family and the results of what a God-fearing woman can do for her family. I'll see you guys next week.